So I'm out here going to do a repacking of a stern gland. Let me show you how to repack a stern gland. In this particular case I'm actually using my rudder stock because it actually needs doing, and I tend to use the old-fashioned corking cotton. It's a square profile. I don't know if you can see that, but and I've cut the chamfers on the end. Now I'll explain that in a minute, so don't panic. But I think it's really important to show people how to repack these. They're not that hard to do as long as you understand the principles. The first one is that when you wrap the corking cotton around the shaft that you're trying to seal, you create a complete loop and create a chamfer, so that the two chamfer together to create a seal when it goes around the stock. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is when you put the my dad always used to tell me to use 3 at a time. So I've cut 3 here, all the same length, all with similar chamfers. But it's important to stagger the chamfers on the stock so they're not all in a line, because if not, it will never seal. And the other thing is to use a good quality water pump grease. In my case, I'm using, and this is not an advert, but it's just the fact of 45 years of using Blake's products. The grease, again with the corking cotton, has never let me down. So I'm going to just show you the actual stern gland now, or in this case the rudder gland. So basically what you'll see when you're looking at your stern tube or your rudder stock, as in my case, is you'll see this compression fitting held down with 2 bolts, which I've already removed, and they're lock nuts, so it's important that you lock nut them and when you finish doing this job. And also that this complete plate here is completely flat and level as it goes in. It's actually essential that actually drops down and is wound down equally, so it's a good idea to count the threads from the top if you've got a good quality fitting like this one. So I've already taken this out. I've already given the stock a bit of a clean, because where the water's been passing it has made the shaft a bit dirty, so I've given it a good clean over and removed all the old dirt where the water's passed. And also don't forget any of the grease where it's gone hard. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now fit the corking cottons, and again plenty of grease at this point, so bear with me 2 seconds. So what I've got here is the first corking cotton going in. I've got it all the way around. It's important to make sure that when you put it in that you keep that rope square, because if it's not square it's not going to create a seal. And also know where the joint is. So in this case my dad always used to tell me, do one at the top, do one at the bottom, and then do one to one side. So the first one going in now I've done, and it's all nice and square, and I'm putting it in so it's at the joint is at the rear. So that's the first one in. Plenty of grease, as you can see. So I'm now putting in the second one, and again, as I said, the joint is at the front of the boat this time, not at the back. And you can see that is all nicely squidging down there with all the grease pumping out of it where I've put it in. As I say, you can never use too much grease. I'm sure someone will say you can. It's not a job for the what do you call it? Not a job for people who don't like getting their fingers dirty. You can wear gloves. I mean, I'm sure, again, I'm going to have someone tell me you should wear gloves, but my biggest problem is I always rip the gloves. So that's the second one in. Okay. Okay, sorry to have to keep pausing it in between, but with one pair of hands and getting quite greasy. So I've now got the third one in, and the joint is over this side. So that's all 3 in now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the crown on top. So that, you want to make sure that's a nice tight seal. So what I am going to just do is just make sure that's all in, give it a little push down. As you can see, probably see the grease starting to pump out the side there. Get my hand out of the way, you probably see that now yet. So that is all nice and firmly down. What I'm just going to do is I'm going to lift it back up, and I'm just going to add a little bit more grease to the stock here. Because this bit gets all the turning. So now reintroduce that, push it down nice and firmly, And then just to show you, the main nuts are a lot bigger than the lock nuts, so these are going on first. So these are going on, and I'll just do both of these now, get them on equally both sides, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so I've got the main nuts on now. When I say about counting the threads, you can use a tape measure if you like, but a really quick way is if you've got a tidy nail on your thumb, is to actually physically count the clicks. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I've already done the other side, so it's 14 aside, so I know that plate is now uneven. Now what I'm going to do is get my wife Louise just to turn the steering to make sure it's all cool. So now Louise has just turned the steering to make sure that it's not too tight and that it's not binding. Obviously right now the boat is out the water, so this needs some water now to get the cotton to wet out. Lovely! And once it's in the water, now I'm sure someone's going to ask me, can you do this in the water? If you've still got some cork and cotton left for maintenance, I would always try and do it when the boat's out of the water. But in emergencies, yes, you can do it in the water, but obviously there's going to be quite a bit of water coming through the gland if the cotton's damaged. The other thing I will say is, I know a lot of people like the lip seals and all the other stuff, but I've been playing with stern glands now and stocks for over 45 years, and one of the things I love is the fact that I've had clients who have had a problem with their gland and have managed to cut a piece of their main sheet off, or a smaller piece of rope, pack it with loads of grease and stuff it in the gland and get home. And it's always that get me home stuff, whereas some of the lip seals, once they leak, that's it, you've got a leak, and no matter what you try and do, you can't stem the tide. So I hope you find that really useful. It is obviously one of my longer videos, and I've shot it all in what I call as best as one take wonder. The whole job itself takes about 30 minutes to do if you know what you're doing. I hope you find that useful. Cheers.